I'm Kurt Martinez. I'm head Dolby Atmos mix engineer at Dean Street Studios in London. The last few years, I've worked on spatial audio releases for Kylie Minogue, Rita Ora, Duran Duran, Pixies, Nina Nesbitt, Nathan Dorr, a few decent projects. I'm at Audient today in their 916 Dolby Atmos room, trying out the ORIA for the first time. So we're looking at a Finn Forster track. I've been fortunate enough to master the EP and mix it in Atmos. So we're looking at a track called Always, which is a new single that's part of the Grey Skies EP that's out at the moment. So we're going to look at a few things in terms of the guitars, backing vocals, reverbs, things that are different in the Atmos version to what they would be in the stereo version, to kind of enhance that, if you like. The main issues I've come up against with the setup I use daily, we're actually running on two machines, and if one thing goes wrong, there tends to be a knock-on, for other things in the chain to go wrong, and it takes a bit of figuring out to know where the problem is. I think if everything's working in one unit on one machine, it's going to make things a hell of a lot easier to find anything if there is an issue. I found it really easy to use, actually. The buttons on the front are incredibly easy. There's a lot of times I'm using the mouse to go and click around things on the renderer, down mixers in particular. To be able to click a button and flick through down mixers is really helpful. To be able to flick between profiles, again, really helpful. I think, as soon as you've used it a couple of times, you know exactly what you're doing, which is, I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed using it for the first time. So with this is very much it's an acoustic track built on a lot of guitars, a lot of BVs, but there's only one section with drums in it. So normally I'd use drums as kind of the backbone of the track. Drums, bass and vocals I would tend to keep at the front in a track and then feed out to different areas. But with this being an acoustic track, it starts with the acoustic, so the acoustics kind of had to remain as the backbone of the track, so that stays left and right, and then it's kind of playing with everything else around that. So this first acoustic, if I just solo this is the track that I've kept at the front. And then the second acoustic that layers on top of it, it's just pulled off the front wall ever so slightly, just to add a bit of dimension to those two acoustics. We've then got an electric that's playing a lead part. With guitars in general, I don't tend to. I'm not a big fan of automation with guitars. I don't like to fly guitars around the room. I find it I can get really easily distracted when I'm listening to music that's got guitar automation and guitars flying around. I think it's best if as a listener you're not distracted, you're kind of enjoying the experience, that there's nothing in there that pulls you away for the wrong reasons. So with guitar music in general, I tend to keep the band pretty much towards the front of the room, not really coming past these side speakers that far. In this case, we've got the first acoustic, like I say, left and right, holding the track together at the front. That lead acoustic just pulled ever so slightly off the front wall, just to add a bit of depth to it. And then with this electric, that then comes forward again ever so slightly to kind of flesh out this wall. But that's as far as we're coming with those guitars. And then we've got here there's a guitar that's labelled wide. I found with a few bands I've worked with recently, there's certain guitar tones that I like in different areas. So if it's distorted, I tend to keep it pretty much to the front. As soon as you pull a distorted guitar away from the front, if there's not much else going off there in terms of drums and bass, it kind of pulls the song apart very quickly. So I'm kind of careful to make sure that the punch of the song's retained. Someone's worked to put that effort into the stereo mix. Often a mastering engineer doesn't get a look into the Atmos side of things. So for me, it's very important to be matching that stereo master as closely as possible before I'm pulling anything into the room. When I do pull anything into the room, I'm then checking constantly to make sure that it actually works in, be it in headphones, back in stereo, just to make sure that I've paid as much respect to the people that have worked on the track in stereo, be it the mastering engineer, mix engineer, producer. With these guitars, and again, with kind of like dissonant guitars and guitars that are caked in effects, they can work really well in the room, and I don't find those distracting in the slightest. They're meant to be in the room and create that 3D effect, if you like. So with this guitar, I've actually pulled it pretty wide into the sides, and then I've actually done a little trick where I've fed the sides out to this plugin center, completely stripped the center out and just keeping the side information, and then that's going to an up mixer that's not doing anything fancy. It's literally just the standard settings of the Here 360 up mixer, and that's just fleshing out the space all around. So without that, the guitar just in the wides there, and then this is it with the reverb spread around. So then to give you all the guitars together, so what you've got there is the guitars spread out around the fronts and sides, and then what you're getting in the height and rear information is the reverbs. We've got these guitars at the end here, so these little acoustic bits. They're part of the last chorus. There's quite a big build up, so because there's a lot going on at that point, again, no automation. I don't want to pull anything away for the wrong reasons, but this acoustic's kind of treated as a lead, so it's just coming out past the wides, but just to keep it on top of everything else. So I'll just play you that there. In some cases, you can receive stems with the reverbs baked in. So in a lot of cases, depending if it's baked into the lead vocal, then that reverb will typically follow my lead vocal processing. So the reverb is held into the lead vocal stem, but then I may feed that out, whether it's on small delays to flesh out the room, or I might thicken it up with a bit of height, a bit of side. In this case, the reverbs have been delivered separately. So we've got a reverb here that follows the lead vocal. I'll kind of audition those reverbs just to see what works the best. So in some cases, I'll leave it to follow the lead vocal and follow the lead vocal processing, which is what I've actually ended up doing with this one. I'll try it on the quad, so you're literally just hitting the fronts and the rears. Then when you do that, because it's only hitting the fronts and rears, you've kind of got this side information to play with. You're not filling the speakers up with reverb, so it doesn't become a wash. You've still got all that room where guitars have got their separation, keys have got their separation. And the other thing I'll try is up mixers. So there's a couple of good up mixers from Nugent and Department of Sound Here 360. They'll tend to be my go-tos, and I'll audition which one works better for the thing I'm working on. In this case, this reverb in particular feels better to follow the lead vocal. You can see from the waveform, it follows the lead vocal perfectly. So it makes sense that it follows the lead vocal stem. Towards the end, we've actually got a separate split of a reverb. That one I've actually ended up mixing. So that one's a separate reverb that doesn't necessarily follow the lead vocal stem perfectly, and it's got a lot of the backing vocal information in there as well. So I found that with pulling the backing vocals into the room, it makes sense for me to take that reverb and either, whether it works on the quad or whether it works as a in and up mix, it kind of fleshes out all of that vocal information that I've got going on. So with the backing vocals in particular, I can see that these two follow each other. So these are a left and right. So I've just pulled them slightly. Just pulled those slightly into the room. And then we've got these backing vocals that are copying the lead vocal. So what I'm doing is pulling those first backing vocals into the room, and then the last ones there following the lead vocal. I'm kind of sandwiching and bringing those in towards the back of the room. And there's also another BV in here. So what you're getting is 3 layers of vocals essentially, spread across the room. So as a listener, you're getting the vocal from the lead vocal from the front, and then the backing vocals are kind of encasing you, if you like, in the binaural. And with if I had the reverb in there. It helps for working on pop music and things in particular. I've worked on a lot of records where it's a pop vocal record, so the vocal needs to be the focal point right through. But it's great that I get a lot of vocal stacks and a lot of BVs. So from doing those pop records, I'm able to flesh out the sides. I've worked on a record for a girl band, and with girl bands in particular, you get a hell of a lot of vocal stacks. So it means that I'm able to do that right across the board. You keep the lead vocal, front and center, but then it really gives this emphasis on the sides. When you've got all of that stereo processing, you're basically your mastering. It's taking care of the left and right. As soon as you start pulling that information into the sides and it's not getting that same processing, you can find that some things may jump in volume. So for me, I'm taking any processing I do on the left and right, I'm trying to match that, around the room. I also use a sidechain compression. So for something like a vocal, anything that I pull into the room, be it a guitar or reverb, I might then sidechain it to the vocal so that the vocal remains the focal point, and it's not doing a massive amount, it's just ducking ever so slightly, just so that vocal stays front and center, and that information doesn't become too overpowering in the room, but particularly in headphones, it's keeping things nice and clean, and it's like you want it to be in headphones. It's great that we've got, you're going spatial, but in headphones you don't want it to be a wash of reverb. It's worth mentioning as well, actually, when I was saying about the backing vocals with reverbs, if I try something in the quad, something I've found is that as soon as you put something into the quad, it actually lifts the volume by 2 dB. So anything that goes in the quad, I have to drop by 2 dB to make sure that it matches the volume that it should do. Same as the stereo.